The first example of toque libre or freeform flamenco is called atarantas. Now this comes from the mining region of southeastern Spain, and the key that we play it in is F sharp major. And this is because it has kind of a profound feel to it, and it really works for the feel that we want the song to have. Now the cante libres, toque libres, that means the non-rhythmic songs, but they don't have time signatures, but they do have a rhythm, sort of breathing rhythm, and very clear phrasing. We have to use silence very effectively, and it's almost as though we're creating an echo by what we play. Play something, listen to the echo or the silence behind it. This is the whole premise of these songs. And this is based on the Arabic music tradition, centuries and centuries old, where you played a note and the universe echoed it back to you. Well, these songs are very similar. So what we're going to do with this particular taranta is I'm going to investigate the different ways to use silence, the way to make your statement, your opening statement, your thematic statement, and your closing statement. And then we're going to go through some of the chords and make sure that you feel confident of where you are going in this beautiful, beautiful form. So let's take a look at the guitar here. First, the first chord is F sharp major. Right away you're going to notice that there are open strings being used here. Instead of F sharp major like this, which we do use sometimes, we also use open strings, meaning non-fretted. So, and again, we're working the Phrygian mode in this key, so we're going to go through the following chords. B minor or B minor 7th, A major, G, it's a G major chord, partial G major chord, sometimes a G 7th chord, and then back to F sharp. Then we use a D 7th chord lots of times. Looks like this. Then to the G 7th. Now sometimes we'll do chord equivalents up to the 7th position. We have the B flat chord up here. I mean the B minor chord. A major, G, so that's more or less your chordal setup. You're going to see all kinds of chords as we go along that are going to have something to do with those chords that I just showed you. Now, when you think about playing taranta, you really have to think about playing it as though someone was singing. In this case, it's yourself. You're singing. You're making those notes have a statement, having a dialogue with the guitar yourself. I'll give you an example of what I mean. First, when you open up, when you start the piece by yourself, you want to express drama, mystery, and passion. Not necessarily in that order. Here we go. That's your opening statement. That gets the public and yourself into the piece. It's very effective to use just the tonic chord here. In this case, I'm just going. Then a silence. Now let's continue on to make our opening statement. Remember again that you're thinking about a dialogue either with a singer or a dialogue with yourself on the instrument. So here, let's proceed to the next idea. Now you've made a statement, you've made a little melody there. That gets people into your first melodic idea. Of course, you can take all the time that you want in terms of spaces between the expression. Let me give you an example of how that can be. Interpret that in many ways. Now, but you set yourself up to go on to another idea. So when you have an idea, melodic one especially, experiment around with the amount of time it takes in between. There's always a way to get more out of a simple but good idea. Now I'm going to move on to the next thought that would be connected to this thought, keeping a thread going with the original thought. Now there, I moved up to the tonic chord in the upper register. But I got there in a way that was very melodic and consistent with what I was playing before. So let me play that one more time. Now from there we can do something else in the upper register. Now we took the B minor chord up here in the 7th position. To the A chord. Now, to the D7 chord. Now you've made your opening statement, you've made one melodic statement, and then you got into another melodic statement. I'd like to give you an alternative opening statement. Sometimes it's nice to open a dramatic piece like this in a very dramatic fashion. So I'm going to do that using a technique called alzapua, special movement of your thumb. Now you're ready for something soft, something a little bit quiet to give contrast to that kind of dramatic opening. Let me give you an idea of something like that. Okay, you started a quiet thing, you build up the idea, got your theme going, and then you harmonize that theme in a way that's very emotional and very much a part of a dialogue within the guitar and within yourself. This is what playing these free-form things is all about. Creating a mood, developing the mood, and using silence to accent the sound that you make. Sometimes just a single note will do it, and sometimes many, many notes, like what I just played. Before we finish the taranta, I'd like to do one more thing. I want you to understand that this key, lots of times I'm playing that chord as a minor chord instead of a major chord. But the minor chord works for the mood. So lots of times we're shifting around between major and minor, and it's all part of the old Arabic music tradition where you change scales in the middle of things, all for the purpose of getting that passion out to the listener and making sure that the mood is truly captured. And that kind of sophistication is often confusing to a student because it's too shifting and it's not predictable enough. But that's one of the great things about cante libre, toque libre, these free-form things. You have to understand that in the moment of feeling something, you have the option to change a scale, to move around, and that's what gives it its great beauty. And now we're going to move on to Granaína. The next example of the marvelously rich tradition of toque libre is going to be the Granaína from Granada. Up there in the mountains just north of Malaga is where the Arabs lived for 800 years, and there's a wonderful musical tradition, architectural tradition, and of course flamenco tradition. So I'm going to show you today what's happening in the Granaína. It's the same kind of format as a taranta, except now we're in B major. Then we play C to D major, C major, and back to B major. As in a taranta, we change the voicings of the chords to create dissonance, to create sweetness, to get dramatic feeling. And each one of these forms has its own peculiar sound. The Granaína has a different sound than the taranta because of the difference in key. That's why this key was selected. All of these free-form songs are related to the fandangos family, an old Arabic musical tradition. But they're the fandangos that have no time signature. The fandangos from Huelva, the province of Huelva, have a time signature, but these ones do not. So it's very interesting to see that they're all related musically to an ancient Arabic tradition. So let's take a look now at the Granaína. I'm going to play a little beginning part, just as I did in the taranta, to open it up, set the mood. Okay, what I did here was make an opening statement and then slide to a B major chord here in the 7th position. There's your chord. Now the slide that slide imitates the voice of the singer when he resolves to the B chord. So that's why we're doing that slide. It comes from the song. He goes through the melody part and then he resolves. And the guitarists who first started working in this key thought, boy, that would be really neat to just accompany the singing exactly the same. It's a beautiful effect. Now at that point, you've made your opening statement. Now, there's a little thing I like to play now that it's just kind of a little sparkling sort of afterthought of the opening statement before we get into a longer idea. So let me play that for you now. Okay, what we did was do a little sort of bright and beautiful thing and then proceed in its resolution to some darker chords. So I got all the way down to here, and then I went. Now I'm going to take that idea and develop it a little bit, again using silence tastefully. Now there's my opening statement. Now I'm going to do something that's very peculiar to this style of cante libre in the Granadina, where we do a resolution, sort of a cadence of chords that's very typical of this key. And it goes like this. After we've finished the idea here, now we go. Major chord. Well, let's try that one more time. Now, we're on to our next idea. We've resolved. We're back to the tonic chord. Now let's just pretend as though we had a singer here. I'll play a little part that imitates the singing. All right, that goes through some of the chords of the singing as though we had a singer. Since we don't, the guitar part plays the melodic part, and we do it by different kinds of harmony to create the effect of a singing, even though it's not there. Because our melodic inspiration in this music is from the singing. Now let me give you one more little part of the granadina. When we finish the idea like that, sometimes it's nice to do something that's just a little color. For example, we go. Connector. It'll get you to the next idea, which I will play now, and that will be the end of Granadina. The next beautiful tradition of cante libre that we're going to discuss today is las mineras. Now, these are also fandangos, but another key was selected to use because of the slightly different feel to the key. Originally, the key was A flat, but also I'm going to take a look today at C sharp and E flat. Now, those keys we've experimented around with in the profession because they convey the same feeling and accommodate the tonality of someone else's voice. In any case, are beautiful as solo keys to play in. So the first one we're going to do today then is A flat. Okay, now A flat is the tonic chord. Now A major, B major, back to A major, and A flat. Now you'll notice I'm leaving the fifth string open. Going up. This helps to create a drone effect. So you're going. That effect of a drone, that's the idea that we want to convey here. Then your minor chord. I'm going to play a little introduction in this key, which comes from a wonderful idea of Paco de Lucia's, and it'll give you an idea of how an opening statement can be very important and very beautiful. To develop that idea a little bit by continuing, starting right from where we are in this chord. The next key of mineras that we're going to explore is going to be C sharp. Now this is a funny key because it's similar to A flat in the sense that you have an open string, but now you're just moving it across and you're having a regular C sharp major chord would be like this. But we move the bar over here on the first finger, move it across and leave the fourth string open to create that same kind of effect, this drone effect. Okay, now let's take a look. Let's play a short introduction to this mineras in C sharp. Okay, this gets us into the feel of the piece. You notice I moved the voicing around. First I played in this chord, then I came over here. That type of feel. Again, we want to use silence to echo our idea so that the idea can truly be heard. Now, let's continue to build a little bit on this idea. Now one more idea. Minor chord, resolved to the E major, now to A7, to D, D minor, and down here to C sharp. One more time then with that idea. The next and final key we're going to discuss today of the Mineras tradition is going to be E flat. Now this is an interesting key on the guitar because normally we think of the lowest key on the guitar being E. That's our lowest note. But E flat gets you half a step below that note, and as a result it's a little bit uncomfortable. But after a while you find that it brings out some beauty in the guitar you didn't know was there. And the Mineras tradition in this key is the same as it is in the other keys. You're using Phrygian mode, and you're exploring around with open strings, using silence, and making a very clear statement. Let's take a look at E flat. Now here's your tonic chord, E flat, or this. Those are some of the equivalents. So then you have E flat, E major, F sharp major, a G sharp minor, down to F sharp, E, now let me give you a little introduction then in this key to give you the feel of it. Gotten your statement made there, you're getting back to the tonic chord. Now let's state a little more of a sort of thematic idea. Move up to an E type of a chord. the southernmost part of Spain is an old city called Malaga. Been there for 1,000 years at least, and some of the most wonderful songs, cantes de Malaga, come from there. Now, what we're going to do today is called malagueña. That's the word for the music that comes from Malaga. Now, the malagueña that I'm going to do is the form of it that has no time signature. Many of them end in a 3/4 type of time signature, verdeales and javeras and things like that. But for now, we're just going to deal with malagueña without any time signature. Again, it's part of the fandango tradition from the old Arabic tradition. It's just this time in yet another key, E major. So I'm going to show you the chords, and you'll remember from the program doing the soleá, it's the same chords as that. So let's just take a look at these chords. E major, then F, G, F, and E. Then you go to C major, G major, and back to E major. And I'm going to give you a couple of different ways of starting the malagueña. Sometimes each style has a variety of ways you can start. There are some very traditional ways to start, and then there's some highly individual ways to start. First, I'm going to do the traditional way of starting it. Then you'd start your idea, whatever your initial melodic idea was. Now let me play another type of beginning to a malagueña. Now, what we would do is continue with another idea. In this particular point is where the singer would enter and begin to sing his opening section. Since we don't have the singer, we approximate him and sing our own song here with the guitar. So I'm going to play you a beautiful variation that I learned years ago from Nino Ricardo, one of the great composers and guitarists of our century. Now, as you go along in the malagueña, there's the verse, and then there are the little in-between parts of the verse. So we'll have to assume that the verse is over, and I'll play one of the beautiful little in-between parts, sort of connectors to the verse. One of the most beautiful of the flamenco free-form traditions is the toque por rondeña. Now Ronda is a little small town in southeastern Spain, up in the mountains, and there's something about the tuning of the guitar for this song and the song itself that really typify that countryside. And the tuning is attributed to Ramon Montoya, one of the great pioneers of the flamenco guitar. He always had a beautiful feel for what was appropriate in everything that he played. And in the rondeña, he really distinguished himself. So I'm going to tune my guitar to the tuning right here in front of you so that you can see how it goes. First, we tune the 6th string to D. Now they're going to stretch as you tune. They're going to stretch around. You'll have to keep making adjustments for the first minute or so. Now your 3rd string goes to F sharp. Fool around with it, you'll get it. Now, because we've changed 2 strings on the guitar, the fingering in the left hand is going to be quite different. Instead of the C sharp that we played when we were doing the Mineras tradition like this, we're now playing the C sharp like this. Now we still have the 4th string, the unfretted 4th string, to create that drone effect. Or nice dark sound. Then we move to the next chord up, because we're again working in the Phrygian mode, to a D type of a chord, an E chord, back to D, a D7, E7, D7, back to C sharp. Now our relative minor chord is going to be like F sharp minor, except the fingering is different. Or fingering it like this. Then to the E. D. Back to the C sharp. Now, when you start off with rondeña, it has, because of the tuning, it has its own character. There are many ways to start, of course, but I'm going to give you a a beginning that I think is very appropriate. Although it wasn't a beginning when it was created by Paco de Lucia, to me it's one of the great definers of the particular feel of rondeña. So here it is. One more time. Now that little statement sort of sums up everything in one tiny little space of time. You can hear the silence that happens before and after it, sort of like the essence of what rondeña is all about. Now some of the variations are long and they change in character. This somehow captures the ear of the listener as well as the player. So let's move on to what we could do next. Into some kind of a melodic statement. Here's a beautiful one. Now you can see I got involved in more than just one melody there. But what we're doing is taking the melody and carrying it further. I started working in a C sharp chord. Then I went down here. Pattern that gets you to the resolution. It's not as hard as it looks. Now I'm going to play a little bit of the rondeña that imitates the song called rondeña. In this program today, we have explored the beautiful flamenco world of toques libres. This musical tradition represents thousands of years of musical development from the Arabic and Jewish cultures down to us. Observe the natural laws that I showed you about. Explore each key. There's infinite possibilities. Listen to the tone that you're making. Listen to the sound. Make sure you really like it. Then have contrast, drama. Have some passion in there, maybe even a little anger. But always listen to silence. There's a saying that silence is half of all music. So keep that in mind. Most of all, with these things, you have to really imitate carefully the small details as well as the large ones in order to get the feel of it. If it doesn't feel quite right to you, it probably isn't. So go back and do it over and over and over. And remember to have tremendous faith in your own creativity. That's the reason you're trying to learn these things. And use the natural laws that are already in place to enhance that creativity that you have. Your contribution is valuable and it's very much accessible. So go for it without fear and enjoy yourselves. This is what the whole exercise is all about. Thank you very much.